Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is probably going to be one of the best shows we've done in a long time because we've got so much to get through and so many quotes from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer about transfers, the season ahead, why pre-season's gone how it is, players that are going to be part of this, an insight into how he's going to approach this season. And I don't think, as somebody who's an Ole inner, I think there's still a lot in there to be very critical of because ultimately that's about improvement. I had somebody saying to me last night on Twitter, oh, you're moaning a bit. And I was like, hold on a minute. I don't really care if you call me a moaner. We've not been anywhere near a title in 8 years and we're Manchester United. I don't think sitting down and saying this is a great summer, everything's great, it really solves the problem that we were all talking about last season. Correct me if I'm wrong. At the end of last season, we probably have had between 5 and 10 major issues. We've solved 2. Quick math says we've still got issues. Anyway, let's get into the show. Lots to talk about. POGBA sets transfer deadline. This is coming from The Telegraph. To start off with, James Ducker saying that Paul Pogba will start the season with Manchester United and make a decision about his future before the transfer deadline at the end of August. We'll delve into that, but that's what that's all about because Ollie's been talking about him as well. Ollie's also been talking about transfers, what he thinks about future signings, what he thinks about the squad, what he thinks about pre-season. There is literally so much to get into. And breaking comments are coming out all of the time as well. But one of the first things I do want to talk about is a very, very recent quote that's come out from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in the last few minutes in relation to Cavani and Sancho. We've also got updates on Varane for you, on Lingard as well, and a few other things, Trippier. And spending, obviously, in this last few weeks of the transfer window. But Solskjaer has said this about Cavani and Sancho. Hopefully, they'll be fit when they come back with us. They're going to come in after the weekend. There are different circumstances as to why they haven't joined us yet. But it's a long season and they had to have a little more time off. And the clarity on the quote that was out yesterday that disappeared that is now back again. When Solskjaer was talking about Varane and Sancho being on the bench, he was not talking about the Everton game tomorrow. He's talking about the Leeds game. Hopefully Varane and Sancho will be on the bench for the Leeds game. Fucking joke. I just want to say, anybody who says we've acted really quickly and got our transfer business done quick, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? We have not got our transfer business done quickly, technically, because they're not available for the Leeds game. That's the whole point. People saying we've got our business done early. Yeah, your business is not done early if they're not available for the first game of the season. Like, we could have bought... I know we've done the business well. I know Varane's a great signing and I know Sancho's a great signing. But Leeds is not an easy game. And both these players could have been, and we expected to be starting against Leeds. We're now looking at them being bench players. That's not efficient. That is not quick business. Quick business means they're available for the Leeds game. Very unlikely either of them are going to be available for the Leeds game. Still talking about quarantine with Varane. Yes, he's landed in Manchester, but he can't train and he can't do his medical until mid next week because he's got a quarantine for 5 days. And for some reason, Jadon Sancho, whose season at Dortmund finished 2 weeks before Man United's game against Europa League finalist Villarreal and winners. So his season finished 2 weeks before Maguire and Shaw. He played less football than Maguire and Shaw, and he's had 10 days holiday more than Maguire and Shaw. Don't tell me there isn't an issue there. Now, I don't know what that issue is. I was talking to some people last night. I would say that Jadon Sancho has picked up a knock whilst with England and needed a longer period of rest. That's the only logical thing I can think of. Unless he's had a private matter, which, this is why speculation is not great, but you riddle me this. How can a player who finished his season 2 weeks before we did, who hardly played for England, not be back in training as a new... and he's massively excited about this deal. He's massively buzzing about this deal. Why is he not back in training at the start of the week with Shaw and Maguire? And I think he must, one of the logical explanations is, I can't understand why Ollie would go, oh, Sancho, he take off another week, 10 days. There's no reason. He doesn't need another 10 days. He's not had a harder summer than anybody else. I just think the only logical thing is that maybe he was carrying a bit of a strain or something and needed a longer period of rest. In which case, that's absolutely fine. But United need to communicate better. I don't know whether you saw the clip that I tweeted yesterday from the Aston Villa CEO, who spent 5 minutes talking to the fans about why Grealish has left. Fantastic communication. United are very arrogant in their communication. They give bits of information to certain journalists who they've got relationships with, but they don't communicate clearly to fans. And why is Sancho not part of the United squad? Why is he 10 days behind everybody else? Why is he now a bench player in a big game against Leeds? Cavani, I think with Cavani, I would suspect, again, Cavani is family issue. Cavani was thinking about going back to Uruguay back in April. We've persuaded him to stay. I think we gave him an extended holiday for family reasons. You can understand that. I don't think he's injured. I just think they've given him a longer holiday with his family because, you know, he wasn't going to stay. So I think we've done it for that reason. But with Sancho, it's weird. From what he said, I can't see us signing a midfielder. That being said, there's no excuses next season. He spent over 420 million. That's from Ben Anderson. Sancho won't need international clearance, Asher. You're talking... He's not a plane. He's not flying around England waiting for international clearance to bloody land, you prat. There is a reason why Sancho is not here. I'm going down the route that he's probably carrying a bit of an injury. I don't think he's injured now. He probably just needed a bit of a rest. But it doesn't make any sense. I mean, maybe it's COVID, maybe it's family, but there's no logical reason why Sancho would not have been training when Luke Shaw and Harry Maguire came back. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. But massively disappointed that we won't be seeing Sancho or Varane for the Leeds game, and that throws that game in, makes that game harder, doesn't it? It really does. You know, Ollie talks about a big season ahead, but the trouble with Ollie is he's so positive, and it's a great trait to have. But he wraps himself up in his own I don't want to say lies, but stories. Because a few weeks ago he was saying how important the start to the season is. Now he's talking about it's a big long season because he's got to spin the positive. Hi Mark, can you explain how it's the club's fault with Varane and Sancho? Not saying it isn't, but there's definitely something going on behind the scenes and it's frustrating, says Stephen Cherney. Mate, look, it's frustrating, that's what it is. I mean, it's not really the blame game, isn't it? I mean, there's plenty to blame the club for, but the Varane thing looks like a technical joke around the visa. It's just frustrating about quarantine and everything like that. I mean, if you actually live in the UK, this fucking quarantine thing about 5 days is a joke. There are people on trains with no masks on. You know, this is a guy who's going to get paid a lot of money, who's a high-level sportsman, who's got to quarantine for 5 days. And yet you walk around the UK and you wouldn't even think COVID was a thing. It's just a bit of a joke, really. As for Sancho, if he's carrying a bit of a knock, we just need to know. But the frustrating thing is, a lot of United fans are like, how are we starting with Magaluf, McFred and Dan James against Leeds? How has that happened? And how is that? My point is, there are a lot of people out there saying you've got to applaud how efficient and quick we've been this summer. But we haven't been efficient and quick. Whether that's down to the club or not, it's not efficient and quick if Sancho and Varane are not available for the Leeds game. That's not efficient and quick, is it? It's a falsity. Can you please say happy birthday to Liam, you bloody prat, says Lee. Happy birthday to Liam. And Mark, in case we go for CDM, I doubt we should go for Bakayoko from Chelsea. Garav, okay, that's a relevant comment, thank you. And Timo, when was the last time you were at Old Trafford? Timo, you are a prat. I'm not going to read your super chats anymore, but nobody's been at Old Trafford for 18 months because of COVID. So, you know, I think the last time I was at Old Trafford was probably 2 years ago. I haven't been able to go for 18 months, so swivel on it, Timo. In fact, let's remove Timo from the whole setup because all he is a little troll. Piss off, Timo. Right, let's move on. I'm pumped up this morning because there's loads to get into. Now, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been speaking about a lot of things. He's spoken about the goalkeeping situation. He's spoken about the transfers. He's spoken about, obviously, hopefully Varane and Sancho will be on the bench for the Leeds game. They're not starting. Maybe Sancho has a longer vacation to organise movement from Germany to England, selling in Germany and buying in Manchester. Oh my God. Per Eric Klassen, you're as bad as Timo. So now Sancho's not turned up for training for 10 days because he's too busy on Rightmove. Bloody hell. Come on. That's what a load of bollocks. Mourinho was living in a hotel for 8 months. You don't ring up Ollie and go, Ollie, it's Jayden. I can't make training this week because I'm trying to sell my house. Don't worry, Jayden. Don't worry, I'll get Carricky onto it. He's got a connection at Rightmove, and if that's not good, he knows another estate agent. Nonsense. Maybe he's jet lagged. Yeah, I think he's. Look, there'll be a legitimate reason with Sancho. We just need to know why. Communication is key with your fans. Otherwise, conspiracy theories reign. And look, I don't know. There could be a really important personal reason why he's not there. But I think communication is key when you're a new signing. What I do know for a fact is that Jadon Sancho is buzzing to play for Manchester United. So there's obviously something that's held him up. If we do write a petition to club for getting a midfielder, would that help? Says United Voice. You get writing away. Anyway, let's talk about what Ole Gunnar... These are direct quotes from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So he's talking about transfers. He said, anything further now than Varane and Sancho would be a bonus. We've strengthened in the key areas. We've acted early and I'm happy with what we got. Who knows what will happen in the final few weeks on ins and outs, but he's happy with what he's got. Anything now would be a bonus. We've strengthened in the key areas and we've done it early and he's happy. That is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer being Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I know there was a lot of negativity around that yesterday, and if you break it down, he's saying he's very happy, we've solved the issues, anything on top of that now is a bonus, and that we got the business done early and happy. The reality is, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, whether you like him, whether you want him in or whether you want him out, and I want him to do well, but I'll always say this, when the Glazers were getting shit, he backed the Glazers. Like, he is never going to come out, he is never, I'm Robert De Niro, he is never going to go against the Glazers. He's never going to do it. But he's never going to do it. He's never going to go against the Glazers. He's never going to go against the club. He's a club man. He's a safe pair of hands. And he's a buffer. He protects the Glazers from the fans. And that's always been the case. And I don't think he does that because he's pro-Glazers. I think he does that because he's a glass half full guy. He is. He's never going to come out. He is never going to come out and say, I wanted a midfielder and I haven't got it. He's always going to say, I got what I wanted. I'm happy with what I've got. And everything's good. He said it last year. A year ago he said it. And he didn't get Sancho and he didn't get a centre-back. And he still said, I'm happy with what we've done. So jumping on Ollie's back because he's come out and said he's happy with the window, anything else is a bonus, and we've got the business done that we needed to get done. Well, he's lying, but he will do that because he will always be positive about what the Glazers and Woodward and the club does. And in many ways, that provides stability and security and solidarity within the football club. Which, when you look at it, we finished third and second over the last 2 years. Ollie's never going to be that Mourinho guy. He's never going to be that Van Gaal guy. He's never going to be that guy who feeds stuff out. And to be honest with you, he's probably learned a lot of this from Sir Alex, because what Sir Alex spoke about, I feel that what Ollie's come out and said is very much there's no value in the market, which is what Sir Alex used to say 10 years ago. Sir Alex would never come out really and talk about transfers in a bad way. But if you go back to the start of the summer, Solskjaer did say we need 2 or 3 players. We do need a third player. We know what it is. It is a midfielder. But ultimately, I see that statement from Ollie as a good thing, because I said it last night. If we don't buy a midfielder, it's on Solskjaer. It's not on the club, it's on Solskjaer. He's the manager. He's come out and said we've solved the key areas. He's happy with what we've got. It's been done early. So far as I'm concerned, that's a free ticket to say Solskjaer's very happy with his squad. If you say that publicly, you've got to live with that. And you know what? I think he's wrong. I think most of us think he's wrong. But he's come out and publicly said he's very happy with what he's got. So ultimately, if we hit Christmas and we're nowhere near a title challenge because the midfield's shit, well, he's got to own that. It's not Ed Woodward who's going to get the sack. It's not the Glazers who are going to get the sack. It'll be him. So he's got to own that. And if he doesn't want to leak out there that he wants a midfielder and that he's very happy, then that's up to him. And if he thinks he's solved the issues of that football club, then that's up to him. We haven't solved the issues. We've solved a issue at centre back. We've brought in a world-class winger, but the issue is the midfield. Who holds the midfield? You haven't got a holding midfielder, and you should have got one. This business will hit the next 2 seasons' budget, says Greasy. Not offloading redundant players, not signing a CDM, not trying any new system during friendlies. These are all red flags with Ollie I'm very concerned about, says Julian. And of course, Sancho is not in training yet. It's due to the fact that he has to relocate from Germany to England. Not an easy move, so he needs to find a place. You are talking out of your arse, Lifestyle Tube. You are absolutely talking arse. You must have teeth in your arsehole. What are you talking about? He's not moving from Mars. He's moving from fucking Germany. He's moving from Germany to England. What are you on about? How can that be an excuse to be 10 days off training compared to Shaw and Maguire? That's not an excuse. That's not an excuse. And I don't think that's an excuse that Sancho would want. There will be a reason, but I don't think it's because he can't sell his house in Germany. He will want to be training with United. There will be a reason why he's not. Cavani, it will be family related because he wants a longer holiday in Uruguay. With Sancho, it will be a personal reason, or I think he might be carrying a knock from England because it makes no sense. We might find out, we might not. We'll see. Anyway, look, let's talk about the goalkeeping situation because Solskjaer was asked about this. Obviously, Gary Neville spoke about it a couple of days ago on Sky Sports, saying that the goalkeeping situation is not ideal. And we've spoken about it on this channel a lot, that the goalkeeping situation is not ideal. Ollie was asked about it, and I mean, I like Ollie, but he cracks a joke about a serious topic. Like, he was asked about what does he think about Gary Neville saying that having two goalkeepers again is not great. And he said, well, when I was playing, I wanted two good right backs and I didn't have one. You know, Gary Neville was one of the best right backs in the world, so that joke falls flat on its face. And people will go, oh, Ollie's burning Gary, great, oh, Ollie's such a joker. But it's not a joke, is it? We didn't need two good right backs because we had a world-class right back. That's what we had in Gary Neville. But what he did go on to say is that, look, he's basically keeping two goalkeepers, and I think it's ridiculous. I think, you know, there's always two sides, and maybe people agree with it. But he said, in relation to the goalkeeping situation, last year it was a new situation for David De Gea and Dean Henderson. This year, let's see how they get on. I'm a firm believer that if you get too comfortable, you don't play at your best. I mean, it's just, look, I back Ollie. I want Ollie to do well. Some people struggle with the concept of life, that you can back something but be critical of it as well. I've told this story so many times I get bored of it myself. I've done a lot of jobs in my life, and I've worked for people, and I've managed people. When I used to get managed by people, the best manager I ever had in a work sense, I used to challenge them all the time. You know, they were the best. They were the best people person, and they were the most knowledgeable person. But sometimes they'd make a decision, and I'd go, I don't agree with that. And you know, we'd talk it out, and that's the way it should be. I think Ollie's doing a fantastic job at United. I'm not convinced he's the right man, but at the moment he's the right man for the job. But I still think he makes massive mistakes, and I think if you back a manager and you just jump over every hurdle, you're a bit like, you know, the rats that follow the Pied Piper. And it wasn't rats. Yeah, he did get rid of rats as well as kids. But the reality is that Pied Piper was a right dodgy character, wasn't he? I hate that story. I'm getting the word nonce. But the reality is, in relation to, you become a bit of a sheep if you just, I back somebody, so I have to back everything that they do. That's a very dangerous thing, because that's the old adage of, well, if Ollie tells you to put your hand in the fire, will you do it? Like, you can back somebody but question the things that they do, because that's how you get good at things. Mark, I can't watch McFred for another season. I just can't. I'm devastated, says Perry Smith. Haha, City will always be a joke club. Spend 100 million and within 24 hours, Man City, Messi is available, says Edward Walters. Leeds seem to be a sort of game that if we win it, it's a bonus. All else we know what the excuses will be, says Pranay. Morning, Mark. Offer Hernandez to Arsenal for Henderson for Arsenal for 50 million and buy Messi, says Mikael Roach. And people saying Sancho needed more time for relocating. Why didn't Kai Havertz or Timo Werner need that last summer? There'll be a legitimate reason behind this, but I think on the goalkeeping situation, I called it out a year ago, so I'll call it out now. I don't understand what we're doing with the goalkeeping situation, and I think when Solskjaer makes a joke of it, it shows his weakness. You know, the fact that he has to make a joke about Gary Neville when actually Gary Neville made a good point about the goalkeeping situations. I think Solskjaer himself knows this isn't ideal. I mean, I think the excuse for having Henderson and De Gea is poor. What did he say? Well, it's good to have competition because you can get too comfortable. Well, maybe if you're a striker, which is what Solskjaer was, that's true. But as a goalkeeper, you don't need... If that's... Why hasn't Man City got two world-class goalkeepers? They can bloody afford it. Why haven't Chelsea got two world-class goalkeepers? Why don't people have two... Why don't Bayern Munich have two world-class goalkeepers? Because everybody knows goalkeeping is a mental battle, it's a concentration battle, and it's a confidence battle. And we had Ben Foster on about this a few weeks ago. Your goalkeeper does not need a world-class goalkeeper on the bench. You do not need that in your head. A goalkeeper needs to know they're number one. They need to know they've got the backing of the manager. They don't need to know that I'm playing the league games, he's playing the cup games. If I make a mistake in the league games, he might be back in the league games and I might be back in the cup games. I think this is weak. I think it's stupid. And I also think it's an absolute shambles. And it goes back to our inability to sell players again. We've got a club. To be blunt, we've got a situation where we can't afford a midfielder because we haven't got 40 million. And yet we've got 2 goalkeepers who are worth £40 million each. And we're going to keep them both. That's the stupidity of the situation. We're going to destabilise our goalkeepers because we can't pick who the best one is. But we're also going to put one of them on the bench who's worth 40 million quid, having brought Tom Heaton in as well. And yet we can't buy a midfielder. It's a shambles. The removal of players from this squad is a joke. And it's cost us because we need a midfielder and we haven't bloody got one. Hi Mark, I hope we do get a player like Neves or Camavinga, but if not, I hope Varane gets Fred or Garner to play really well and helps them, says Kehen. I think you're hoping for a lot there. True competitors don't need to be reminded to afford to win, says Marcus. I just think in the goalkeeping situation, you don't have 2 good goalkeepers. Ollie's just protecting his own position. He will never go against the Glazers. They gave him a job. They both protect each other. We must sell a goalie, says Tabras. And also, worried about Ollie's comments. Seems like it's Rice and only Rice that Ollie wants. Nothing else will show he hasn't changed. This stubbornness remains, says Edward Walter. You know the brilliant thing about Declan Rice? Maybe we need competition for the manager, says Iron Spot. Solskjaer seems to be too comfortable. Hi Mark, where will Messi go? Says Leighton. I think he'll stay at PSG or go to he'll go to PSG or stay at Barcelona. I think those will be the 2 things. Probably PSG. But there are a few comments coming out, and I've seen about Declan Rice. So let's just dwell on the midfield situation at the moment because I think this is the one that's causing the fans the most, frustration in many ways. But what I wanted to say about Declan Rice is there are numerous leaks coming out about Man United and Declan Rice. I would file this under massive bullshit. I think with Declan Rice, United are using him as an excuse. I think United are pretty much starting to think they're not going to get a midfielder. But what they need to do is not make it as blatant that they don't want to buy a midfielder. So what do? Mention a midfielder that would improve us that you've got no chance of getting. And I think with Declan Rice, we're starting to get that. I'm starting to see more and more United really want Declan Rice and they don't really want to settle for anything less. What a crock of shit. Like, the reality is, I know for a fact, and have known for a long, long time, that Declan Rice doesn't even want to come to United. Even if he wanted to leave West Ham, he doesn't want to come to United. So United acting like, we want Rice, but we want to wait for Rice. You're not getting Rice. He wants to go to Chelsea. If Chelsea want him, they get him. He's not going to pick United over Chelsea. So what a load of nonsense to put a story out there that we want Rice. That's why we've not bought anybody, because we're holding out for Rice. You're not getting Rice. It's not going to happen. If you want Rice, you've got to pay the money West Ham want, and Chelsea have not got to be in the race. So, and ultimately, I agree with what a lot of people are saying in the chat. What's the difference between Declan Rice and Ruben Neves? Is it huge? The price difference is huge, but is it huge between ability between Rice and Neves, or Rice and Phillips, or Rice and Saúl Ñíguez, or Rice and Basuma? Is it a huge difference? Or is it the fact that he's got a British passport? Now, I like Declan Rice, and I think he'd be perfect for United, but I personally think we've got absolutely no chance of doing the deal unless we offer a fair price for Rice, which we don't seem to want to do. So I think that we're starting to see that United will use the name Declan Rice a lot more because they know he's unattainable, but it'll make fans go, wow, why should we settle for less? We want Rice, we can't get him, let's wait till next year and put up with McFred. And actually, as we know, there are 4, 5, 6 midfielders available for 40 million quid that we should be bringing into this club, at least one of them, but we're refusing to do it. Another club would just sell Henderson and other deadwood to fund the player they wanted, like Neves or Rice, as Vincent McDonald. Well, look, I'm not going to apologise about this. The removal of players from this club has been nothing short of a disgrace, and people just want to dwell around fantastic signings of Sancho and Varane, which they are, but this is not a great transfer window. It really isn't. We've not got those players in early because they're not here yet. So all this talk about getting your business done early from Ollie and certain fans, well, we haven't got our business done early, have we? Varane's not a United player, so how can he be early? Sancho's not even here yet, so how can it be early? Like, they're not early. It's not early business. I don't know why we keep talking about the efficiency and earliness of our deals, because whether it's our fault or not, we've not got those deals done early. They're not here. They're not even on the training ground yet. So how can they be early deals? They're not. They're not. We're not prepared for this season, are we, at the bottom line? And as for the midfielder, I mean, what's going on there? What 11 are we expecting against Leeds? No Sancho or Varane due to no pre-season. Don't want to repeat of bad start like last season. Look, I wouldn't write off beating Leeds. If we can beat Leeds with whatever team he puts out, then it's a big positive. King James says, you're right. Stop calling it a business. No company would let contracts run down. Keep overpaid Deadwood and let stars go for free. Pogba twice. Idiot, says King James. Let me just talk to you about Paul Pogba, because Pogba's transfer deadline was the story we were going to go with. I did talk about it briefly at the start, but there are updates. So the Telegraph said yesterday or last evening that Pogba will start the season with United, as we know. Ollie himself has said that Pogba seems very happy. But the story is that PSG do like Pogba, do want Pogba, could make a move for Pogba, but Pogba will start the season with Manchester United and make a decision by the end of the transfer window, by the end of August. But that decision, as we suspect, will just be to stay with United this season. There is still a possibility that PSG will come in, and there is still a possibility that Pogba might ask for the move, and there is still a possibility that United will take the move. But I think ultimately he'll end up staying. But interestingly, there are some stories from Simon Stone, BBC, and David and Hurst Class, who I think is, I forget the outlet he works for, but he's saying basically that if Pogba leaves, United will look at Saul Niguez or Ruben Neves, because PSG do want Paul Pogba. I mean, what's the point in that? What is the point in Saul Niguez if Pogba goes, or Ruben Neves if Pogba goes? These should be players coming in if Pogba stays. And you know, you do start to think, well, maybe this is what's going on here. Maybe the reason we're linked to Neves and Saul Niguez is because Pogba might go. Maybe that's the whole thing. Maybe we're not even interested in a midfielder unless Pogba goes. And ultimately, maybe that makes sense. Maybe the reason people have these conversations about, well, I don't think Neves can hold the midfield, I don't think Saul Niguez can hold the midfield. Maybe they're never meant to hold the midfield. Maybe they're only being considered if Pogba goes. If Pogba stays, we're probably going to stick with what we've got, which is scary. We beat Leeds comfortably in both games last season. No need to rush the new players in just so we can see the new shiny toys, says Brandon. Yeah, great. Brandon, that's a great point, isn't it? I must admit, Brandon, that's such a good point. It's made me disappear. Because you're living in a bloody fantasy world, mate. So I may as well use a bit of magic myself and disappear. Now for a bit of reality, Brandon. So we beat Leeds last year twice, so therefore we're going to beat them this year. What a crock of shit. I'm sorry. I think some people are sniffing the old fairy dust this morning. Whoa, we beat Man City last year, didn't we? Oh, we'll probably beat them again this year. Oh, you know, I mean, come on, it's a new season. You can't say we beat Leeds comfortably last year, so we'll be fine this year. I'll tell you what, let's put the reserves out. We smashed them 6-2 at Old Trafford, and we didn't have a crowd last Christmas. We may as well play the reserves. 75,000 fans. We may as well give the whole first team and stay up in Scotland. Go and play a bit of golf. Come on, you know, don't start disrespecting teams on what we did last season. You know, we can't do that. And I don't think we did beat Leeds twice last year. And anyway, I know we smashed them at our place, but I think we drew at their place, didn't we? The only rice we are getting is for dinner, says Red Devils FC. Anyway, so also Simon Stone has a couple of updates. He said that around Pogba, the likelihood is that he's going to run down his contract, which of course I think we know. And also he's mentioned about Jesse Lingard, that Manchester United must trim the squad if they want to sign any players. We keep hearing this. I think you can take this as read now, that Manchester United Football Club themselves are putting that out there into the media, that they've got to sell to buy. Because it's coming from everybody now. Simon Stone, Fabrizio Romano, everybody is talking about United have got to sell to buy. So this pretty much nailed on will be coming from the club. But what Simon Stone of the BBC has said as well, good journalist, very, tap-in merchant. He doesn't normally say something unless it's true. Nothing wrong with being a tap-in merchant journalist because you get the credibility. He's saying that we've got to trim the squad if we want to sign players, and that whilst there is interest in Jesse Lingard, he's probably going to stay and run his contract down as well. Which is interesting because we were talking about that last night, that why would Lingard not think about running his contract down as well, like Pogba? Ollie loves McFred. They are quality in his eyes, says Tabrez. And welcome to the Members Club, Sihan. Thank you very much for becoming a member. So, yeah, you know, even Ollie himself was talking about Bruno, and he said, I overplayed him last season because I needed to, but this year I've got Jesse and Sancho and Martial, and we can do different things. I mean, I've got to say, I'm very excited about the start to the season, and I can't tell you how great I think Varane and Sancho are as signings, and they will improve us. But when I'm worried, I'm not worried about not finishing in the top four. I think top four is nailed on. There is no way we can't not finish in the top four. But third place, second place, this is meant to be about whether Solskjaer can get us into a title race. I'm worried about whether we can do that. I think we could very easily end up in that sort of third, fourth spot, nowhere near a title race, comfortably in the top four. And ultimately, is that progression? Well, the club will love that. We're in danger if we're not careful of becoming Wenger with Arsenal, where for 10 years we just finish in third or fourth, but we never get near a title. The Glazers would love that. They would love that. They don't care about winning trophies. They just want the money. And Champions League spot is the money. And that's what I'm worried about a little bit, is that I do think we're nailed on to get top four, but I do worry about how you can win a title when you've got such a redundant midfield. We must trim the squad to make the team look bigger, says Danny. Yeah, it's almost a Manscaped integration, isn't it, really? But also what was interesting is that there was this talk about Kieran Trippier from Hurst Class, who's a journalist, and him basically saying that if Manchester United want to buy Trippier, they need to sell. So because Atletico Madrid want around £30 million. There is starting to be a story about Trippier and needing to sell. I'm starting to fear that we're not going to get a midfielder, but that we are going to get Trippier in. I'm starting to fear that the next few weeks is going to be about selling players to get Trippier and not a midfielder. Even Luckhurst in the Manchester Evening News has said about Trippier, he's not seen as a backup, he's seen as a replacement for Aaron Wan-Bissaka. And this, to me, I worry about this. I really do worry about this. And look, I know there's going to be a lot of people who disagree with me on this, but it's all about opinion. That's what the community is all about. And thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe bottom right hand corner. But for me, there's two big elements there that would cause me a problem. One, we're selling to buy Trippier. We need a midfielder. Two, I just think it's so unfair on Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I think he had such a difficult season last year. Really, really difficult. And yet he still did get quite a few assists, and he still did have quite a few good games. He had a few bad games as well, but he had a few good games. And I still think he is arguably the best one-on-one defender in the Premier League. And he's about to have a season with Varane next to him and not Lindelof. You know, it makes a massive amount of difference. It really does. It's like a tag team wrestling event, and instead of having Ian Beale next to you, look him up, you know, you've got John Cena. And I think that's basically, to kick Wan-Bissaka out of the team because of last year, totally, in my opinion, exposes the lack of coaching knowledge at Man United. Because I think Wan-Bissaka's 2 years younger than, he might even be more than that, but he's 2 years behind Luke Shaw. And when you look at Luke Shaw 2 years ago, I was saying he's a brilliant left back and he's going to be a world-class left back. And people laughed at me. And I think with Wan-Bissaka, I see exactly the same. He's a brilliant right back and he's going to be a world-class right back. And people will laugh at me again. But he's been playing with Lindelof and no real right winger. He's now going to have Sancho ahead of him and Varane next to him. And I think that's going to give him the platform that he needs, the stability that he needs. What Luke Shaw's had with Maguire, he's now going to get with Wan-Bissaka and Varane. This Kieran Trippier thing worries me. And I've got nothing against Trippier. It's very much like Henderson and De Gea. I've got nothing against Henderson. I just prefer De Gea. But there seems to be a bit of an obsession at United about getting Kieran Trippier. Oh, he's a local lad. He wants to come to the club. Let's get Trippier and drop Wan-Bissaka. Well, what? You spent £50 million on Aaron Wan-Bissaka for a start. Do you want to expose yourself as a prat by dropping him for somebody else? And also, I just think that I think Wan-Bissaka's going to have a really big season. He's hardly ever injured, and he's going to be playing with Varane. And I would keep Dalot. And not bother with Trippier and get a midfielder. Hi Mark, please name 3 differences between Ollie and the Glazer puppets, says Andre. Well, I don't know. You name them. Mark, love to hear your thoughts on the leaked menu from the training camp. City won't be eating sticky toffee pudding, says Danny. I mean, there was a leaked menu of what United players were ordering whilst away, and it had like cheeseburger and chips and sticky toffee pudding. I don't believe that that's true. I don't believe that that's true. I really don't. Because if that's true, we've got footballers eating some pretty basic shit food. I mean, cheeseburger and chips and sticky toffee pudding. I mean, I wouldn't eat. That's the sort of thing I'd get my kids. You know, I like sticky toffee pudding and I like cheeseburger and chips, but I just can't imagine that's true. I really can't. As for whether you should be eating that sort of thing a week out from the start of the season, I don't know. I mean, footballers do a lot of running, so they burn things off, but I don't think that's true. I'd also say, if it is true, what a crap selection of food they have. Where's the macaroni cheese? Where's the fruit salad? Where's the prawn cocktail? It was bloody basic, the food that they were ordering as well. Aaron Wan-Bissaka will have to have the tools to succeed with Varane and Sancho. He will become world class, says Red Devils FC. And Mark, we need someone who can offer something different right now. Wan-Bissaka will come good over time, but we need someone better going forward, says Lil. I disagree, but I knew people would have a different opinion on that. On Varane, a bit of a story coming out last night. You might have seen it, that Phil Jones is going to be asked to vacate the number 4 shirt for Varane. I feel sorry for Phil Jones. I mean, look, we've bantered him. Of course we have. I don't think anybody can say that they've not bantered Phil Jones at some point over the last 5 years. And as I said, I think Phil Jones should take that as an affectionate thing. I don't see much. I don't think any United fan hates or dislikes Phil Jones. I think he's seen as a bit of a comedy act, and maybe he's not comfortable with that as a professional sportsman. But ultimately, the pink boots, the funny faces, the injuries. But he's our comedy act. He's our Phil Jones, and I think that I think the most important thing for Phil Jones now is that he's never going to play first team football for Manchester United again. Consistently, he won't. What he needs to do is look at his career and say, look, I've got 20-something England caps. I've actually got a Premier League winners medal. My career, whilst it's injury blighted, it's a better career than a lot of people. And I've earned a good living out of it. And I've had a good lifestyle at it at one of the biggest clubs in the world. And if I was Phil Jones now in my late 20s, my focus and mentality would be to look at a United career and go, you know what? There's been the comedy moments. I'm going to embrace those. But ultimately, I've got a good CV. And I've got things I can look back on. And yes, injuries are regrettable. But you know what, Phil? There are footballers out there that are like young players for Hartlepool who get an injury and can't play again. So you can't feel too sorry for yourself in relation to the career you've had. You've got a Premier League winners medal. I think what Phil Jones needs to do is get into the mentality that it's about fitness for him. And look at people like Ledley King and Paul McGrath who had big injuries but still played football. And what he needs to do is get himself to a fitness level where he can do, for the last few years of your career, play as much football as you can, wherever you can. And if that's Newcastle or West Ham, then that's a win for Phil Jones. And I think that's what he needs to do. Because ultimately, I think that, that's the best thing for him, really. And let's not forget, Phil Jones was used as a bloody... Can you remember when that leak came out that Phil Jones was going to play against Wolves? He wasn't even fit. So he's been used by the club as well. Mark, gutted about Grealish going to City. He's such a superstar, and I think with Pep he can win the Ballon d'Or. Says Mark Friedman. To be honest with you, I think Grealish is a good signing for Manchester City, but if we got a midfielder, I'd be very happy with the business that we've done. Is Twan Sebi Leicester a good loan with Fofana out, says Duncan? I think he's going to Villa. I think he'll go to Villa, but I wouldn't mind him going to Leicester, really. Glazers think Varane number 4 will make our fans buy more shirts, says Ian. So Lingard must trim to sign. And Manchester Evening News is saying that we're looking at a midfielder, a right back and another centre back. I don't think we're looking at anybody at the moment, to be honest with you. I really don't. I think we are not looking at anybody. And ultimately, as a very, very quick statement, obviously we're playing Everton tomorrow. I think the team that we pick against Everton tomorrow will be very similar to the team that we pick against Leeds. So let's see if we play 2 holding midfielders tomorrow. That's what I'm interested in seeing. Are we going to play 2 holding midfielders against Everton tomorrow? In fact, I'm going to do a preview for the Everton game tomorrow because I think that's a very... I don't normally do a preview for pre-season games, but I think there's an interesting show there because it's going to be very similar to what we do against Leeds next week. And we know that Varane and Sancho are highly unlikely to play. And we also know that Cavani's highly unlikely to play because he's not back training till the start of next week. So we are taking a risk next week. The preparation in the pre-season is not good. I would argue with anybody that we haven't got our transfer business done early. Technically we did, but factually we didn't. Early business for me means they're playing against Leeds. They're not even training. They're not even ready. So it's not early business, is it? We haven't got what we needed to get in the midfield. But Ole Gunnar Solskjaer coming out and being positive about having 2 goalkeepers for 1 spot, about buying players that he needed to buy and being happy with the business and anything else is a bonus. I think he's talking out his arse. But I don't think he's talking out his arse in a bad way. I think it's just Solskjaer. Solskjaer is positive. He's Mr. Positive. That's why loads of people like him. It's why I like him. But he will always be positive. He will not feed a negative out because that's just not who he is. He is perfect for the Glazers and he is perfect for our fan base because he's that buffer between the two. He's that positivity between the two. He protects the Glazers and he provides positivity to the fan base. Doesn't mean we can't buy more players, but if I was a betting person, I think if you read between the lines, we're trying to sell players to buy Trippier. And to be honest, if we're trying to sell players to buy Trippier, I hope we don't sell anybody. I'm only interested in selling players if we're getting a midfielder. I'm not interested in Trippier coming in. I really am. I don't mind Trippier, but I'm not that Trippier for me does not excite me at all. It doesn't. It's a meh signing. Like if I was to rate this transfer window, I would rate it out of 10 and I would give a 7 because we haven't got a midfielder and we haven't sold players. So how can I give any more than a 7 out of 10? Because we haven't bought a midfielder and we haven't sold players. If we buy Trippier, I'll keep it at 7. It doesn't improve it and it doesn't make it any worse. It's a right back. We don't need a right back. We need a midfielder. So I think that's where we might be heading. Anyway, look, I will do a preview this afternoon. I think that's a good idea to load up a preview for the Everton game because it's a big game and it's our only pre-season game. And I think the team will line up very similar to the way that we line up against Leeds. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video, subscribe. We got through loads. I think we will. I think there's loads more we could have discussed, but so much there. Hope you've enjoyed the show. The tempo around me and the show is not going to be all positive and all negative. It's a big season for United. I think standards need to be high from day one. I think any slippage is failure. I think we're trying to get into a title race. That is the bar for me this season. I don't know about you. So that's where my expectations are going to be. And sometimes people might say, oh, he's being a bit moany. Some people say he's being unrealistic. But to explain where I am a passionate person. I want United to do well, and that's where I'm coming from. And for me, the bar this season is being in a title race. And at the moment, I feel that we're not quite there. And there's numerous reasons for that. Hopefully we can get there, but I'm not going to change the bar. Last year, I didn't think we'd get top 4, and we did. This year, I'm saying title race has to be what we achieve. Solskjaer said it himself. The aim is to be in competitions and league races in April. Well, yeah, that's exactly where I am as well. Thanks everyone for watching. Have a fantastic day or evening, and I'll speak to you a little bit later. We'll put a preview up this afternoon and we'll have a live 8 o'clock show as well. Thank you very much for watching. Speak to you all in a bit.